3D print farms have three major issues: the cost of orders and delivery, marketing your services, and a lack of recurring customers. Now, what if I told you that my hustle solves all of these issues? To cut to the chase, selling locally is the cheat code for what would otherwise be a saturated online business. And it allows you to do things you can't do online, like an in-person experience. And when you make stuff local, it's far easier to get recurring customers and spread through word of mouth. But also, selling local doesn't have to be a boring business. And to be clear, you will get to 3D print stuff that's actually quite exciting and not just some random AI slop someone ordered. In fact, I will break down the specific hustle I started from scratch, as well as why nobody has done this yet and why it works so well. So if you're new here, I run a 3D printing club for kids, where I let them design a new kind of toy each week. Then I take home their designs and turn them into real toys, which they collect at the end of the next class. And there are three key features to this business model that make it easier and more reliable than others. The first being novelty. Like, when have you actually heard of somebody hosting a 3D print club? The answer is likely never. And the same can be said for hosting a toy design lab too. So in a world where kids are still showing up to do art classes, karate, and soccer, you bet that they'll show up for a 3D print design club. Also, each week they're doing something new, whether it's making 3D name tags, miniature swords, flexi dragons, or making magnets. The second key reason I love this business so much is the recurring revenue. You see, this thing runs every week, so I can predictably rely on a stable income without having to source new traffic or customers. And because I have a new design brief for each week of the class, the kids keep coming back for something new each time. Also, with the structure of these classes, if you show up for one class, you kind of have to show up for the next one to collect your toy. At which point, you might as well just do that week's class too, and then collect it the next week. You see what I mean? It's a really grippy business in terms of customer retention, as well as customer satisfaction. Now, before I get to reason number 3, I wanted to call out the fact that I'm planning to put together all of my resources in order to show you guys the step-by-step how-to formula in order to set up and run one of these classes, as well as new lesson plans every week. But in order to get there, I need to know that this is going to be worth it. So if you've sat through a couple of my videos already, do me a favor and just get this thing boosted in the algo. Watch the whole thing, leave a message, hit the thumbs, whatever you gotta do. And thanks, by the way. But like I said, reason number 3 is freedom. So I've worked quite a few jobs from part-time to self-employment. And although these sound like a break from a true 9-to-5 schedule, they can honestly really suck. Leave a comment if you agree. But with running these classes, I can work less to get more. So if you're trying to knuckle down and make good cash, this could work for you. But also, if you're just looking for something comfortable and reliable, this also works, because the amount of classes you host throughout the week is really up to you. Now, given that I've told you the outline of how this business works, I think it also makes sense to give you an example of one of the projects I did a couple weeks back. And this is one of my favorites because I switched up the format and got the kids all excited for a new round-based project in class. So what I did was I showed them these miniature swords I made, and I gave each kid a sticky note and a pen. And I announced that for round 1, each of you will sketch a sword from your imagination. I'll give you 8 minutes to make your drawings, and after that, I'll hand out some new sticky notes for round 2. So the first round, I tell them to draw a lightsaber. Then the next, I say, draw me a pirate sword. After that, I get them to make the most powerful sword they can think of. And then for the final round, I get them to make a sword of their choice. And you'll notice that they get more invested each round as it becomes a bit of a comparison game between the kids. Also, the swords concept is a really nice idea, since they take hardly any time to print given how flat they are. And additionally, they don't need any extra parts to fit them onto. And it's super fun. Now, with these classes, there's always a sweet story I like to share from the previous weeks. And this time around, we had a new kid join one of the open slots in my class. And he looked pretty nervous. So I got him sat down and showed him the design challenge we were doing that day. We were making one of those toys with a suction cup and a spring, and so I asked him what he wanted to make for it. And he told me it's a surprise, so I left him to it. And after a while, I come back to check in on him, and he shows me the rocket he's made. This was some time into the lesson, so he then asks if he can go see his mom, And usually I try to keep the kids in the class for the whole lesson, but it was his first day, and he seemed pretty shaken up before he got settled down, so I let him go find his mom outside. And actually, they both came back, and I asked how his class was. But since he was feeling too shy, his mom asked if he wanted to come back again next week, to which he nodded. And then she asked me if she could pay for the next 7 weeks in advance, which told me all I needed to know. There's often a thing like this that pops up where one of the parents tell me that their kid finally has a club to be a part of, because often other after-school clubs don't feel very welcoming. And it's a gift to the shy or introverted kids to get to sit down and make something completely from their own imagination. Now, there's a couple other things I could focus on, like the revenue and profit opportunities that come with running a 3D print design class like this, but I've done a whole other video on that already, so I'll link that here if you want to find out more. Otherwise, leave a comment or do whatever you can to get this video seen, as well as letting me know if you would like to run one of these side hustles yourself.